Innovation takes time.
It's challenging.
Frustrating. But often, a thing of beauty. Innovation. We understand it takes ideas, dedication, vision.
Above all, it takes people. Entrepreneurs who love to innovate.
Startups that love to make change. And companies who are not scared of taking risks or wonder what could be. Fostering innovation requires the right environment to flourish.
Vaughan is one of Europe's leading innovation hubs with a vast number of growing industries. It's where Swiss quality of life, stability, diversity of skilled labor, talent, and academic research are all linked together to grow ideas
and innovate. Our ecosystem is rich with diversity, setting up endless possibilities between many different sectors. Health tech and life sciences.
Food tech and nutrition, digital trust and cybersecurity,
Aerospace and precision engineering.
AI and machine learning,
Sport tech.
drones and robotics.
Energy and environment technology. All converging to harness each other's high-tech strengths.
We act as a bridge between startups, corporates, investors, and entrepreneurs. We understand innovation takes connections, support, and financial incentives.
That it takes collaboration, talent, and the most advanced technologies to push ideas forward and bring them to market. That's why we promote, invest, connect, and grow innovation. Vaughan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third annual Globaltech Summit here in Lausanne. I am so thrilled to be here, and actually, true to its name, the Globaltech Summit, you're going to hear from 14 speakers today, covering fintech, health tech, fashion tech, brand tech, I'm missing another tech, and also sustainability. So really, really packed agenda. My actually job for today is to keep us on time, and we're already not doing that. So we are going to try to achieve some time savings later on. Just very quickly, for those who don't know me, so Christine Siriani, I'm the CEO of the EMEA for a company called InvestCloud. InvestCloud, we're a digital native SaaS company that provides digital solutions for private banks. And with no further ado, for those of you also will see me with my phone, this is both to keep us on track on time and to make sure I haven't missed anything. I'd like to introduce, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you, Nikola Mojo, who many of you will know his face from television and from being on the global stage. But Nikola is an ambassador, head of presence in Switzerland, and of the Swiss Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He is an author and speaker, experienced in nation branding, and most recently, his most recent projects have been both in the House of Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, recently just came back from the World Expo in Dubai, and will be doing the Olympic Games in Paris as well. With no further ado, Nikola.
Thank you, and thank you to the organizers to have me today. I'm going to ask a question through my speech. Going to have the questions on the speech. Maybe I have to do this. Yes, this is a question. So, the very question I'm going to ask you this afternoon is: are we more high-D or more high-tech? A difficult question, but I guess for you guys, you're going to go to the high-tech. But it's not a given for Switzerland. So, as you heard, I'm in charge of marketing. I'm the chief marketing of the Swiss government abroad, meaning that I have to take care of the brand Switzerland abroad, to defend sometimes, to promote the brand Switzerland abroad. And one of the very questions I ask to myself each and every morning actually is, what is the brand Switzerland? What is the brand Switzerland? Is the brand Switzerland big enough, strong enough to support the market, to support the enterprises? So how do we answer the questions? So we are buying actually a lot of data. One of the most interesting data that we are buying is the Nation Brand Index. The Nation Brand Index is a huge survey conducted in almost all the countries and asking the very questions. Do you think that Switzerland is strong? US and all the countries are compared actually. And as you can see, we are only number 8 out of 200. We are not number 1. Disappointing for me, of course, because I'm pushing Switzerland. But if you have a look at this, we are number 1 among the small countries. And you know how it works in the world of branding. I mean, if you are a huge country, if you have hard power, if you have a market, then of course you have a lot of chances to be better than Switzerland, which has no market, almost no market, no hard power. So the very question is, how come are we that good in this? My first answer will be, or would be, first of all, we're useful to the others. This is very important. We are a country that is making business. Without business, no Switzerland. We do make business with the outside world. And actually meaning that we're useful to the outside world. So we are doing money through the business, of course, but at the end of the day, we'll let the others make money. If you have a look on the let's say, automotive industry. Let's take, for instance, Volkswagen or Porsche. There is no Porsche, no Volkswagen without Switzerland. We are in the tech of the others. That's why we're useful. This is reason 1 for the success. Reason 2, I would say we are harmless, not neutral. Neutral, you know, it's a difficult topic for those that are following the actuality. But we are harmless. We don't harm the others. So useful and harmless, this is one of the success that makes Switzerland number 7 in this index. But if you know that you are not that bad, then you have to know why. You have to know why are we not bad, what is the perception of Switzerland abroad, and most important thing, where could we improve to be better than what we have. One of the most interesting source of information we have regarding the perception of Switzerland abroad is the cab test. You know the cab test, innit? You just took a plane, just arrived in the country, it's late at night, you take a cab, and somehow the question of the cab driver would be, where are you coming from? And then you have your passport, whatever, you say, oh, I'm coming from Switzerland. And then you have the result of the cab test in it, because you have the driver explaining you the whole he knows about Switzerland. So this is the best index I have. Actually, we are currently asking these questions. It's each and every 2 years abroad in the strategic countries we have, and I'm going to present you the result. So guys, in the audience and online, so what do you think we're going to have here as a result? Cab test. Any ideas here? Cheese, you're right. It's not chocolate. What? Watches, you're right. Yes, of course. Yes, all this. I'm going to present you the order, because the order is much important actually than the items. And of course, the very question we have to ask ourselves in this tech summit is what does not pop up in the answer. This is very important. But you guys, you just missed one very important item. Come on. Since 2 weeks, we have a big country, a big issue in the country. We don't have him. So this is a number one. You just miss it. It's a catastrophe. So he's already forgotten, the poor Roger. So this is currently there was the number one. But then you have the landscapes without actually the mountains. Interesting, because we have a lot of customers from Asia that are not climbers. You know it? So landscape number one. Then you have the mountains. Then you have the banks. And then you have the chocolate. Chocolate is one of the most important items, stronger than cheese, because unfortunately, there is other cheese countries in it. So watches are coming here. Stability and prosperity, very important for the investments. As you know, we have winter sports, as you could see, not at the very beginning. And then we have the neutrality coming back, sometimes not understood from some people, but anyway, it's part of the cliches in the CAP test. And then cheese, as you saw, weaker than chocolate. And then we have the quality of life, of course. This country is a clean country, and only in Switzerland you can buy coffee with Swiss francs without any problem. So this is maybe the only negative dimensions that there is here. So we are here in Lausanne, physically and online, and we are trying to talk about the tech, the innovation of Switzerland. And there is no innovation in this CAP test in it. So the question we have here is like, where is the Swiss innovation hidden? So this is the huge challenge for us. On one hand, we are number 7 out of 200 countries. And then, on the other hand, we have the cliches, and we don't have the innovation which is visible, or at least which is directly perceived. So this is one of the things we are doing with our colleagues from the Swiss Business Hub. We are trying to push to make this innovation visible. The movie that I'm going to show you right now, it's exactly between Heidi and high tech.
Is there more to say about Switzerland?
Sure.
Thank you. So, I mean, you understood the brand Switzerland is, of course, the cliches that you have within the CAB test, but it's also high quality, reliability, loyalty, predictable, durable, modest, precise, honest, and pragmatic. This is definitely what we try to push abroad, because we have to take care of the cliches, but you have to let the people know that we are also this, because this is a promise, and it works, actually. And Roger Federer. I just forget this. So the question, are we Heidi or high-tech? I would say let's take rid of the Heidi for a while, and let's put Federer instead of high-tech. Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nikola Mojo, very much for an engaging presentation. I was also, actually as a Swiss, I was also voting for innovation myself. And as in the fintech world, I don't know if you know that every 10th fintech startup in the world is Swiss. So there you go. Our next speaker, I'm pleased to introduce the CEO of Alpion, Skylar Weiss. Alpion has won the Top 100 FinTech Award in Switzerland. And just a little bit about Skylar. So Skylar has been over the last decade in digital innovation. First, actually, as head of digital innovation, you can come on up, Skylar. Digital innovation at Réal Banque Privée, Réal SC, Vice President at Morgan Stanley, and Senior Consultant at IBM. So over to you, Skylar.
Yeah, thank you for having me here today. So it's funny, watching that video, you do not see anything about fintech, which is unfortunate. You see a lot of things about automation and machinery, but you don't see anything about fintech. But I'm here to represent the future of private banking in Switzerland, the innovation that's happening within Switzerland. And today, I was thinking about what am I going to talk about? Right? What is the topics that I should share at this forum, which is not really focused on fintech? And I'm going to share what I've learned as a CEO of Alpion, which is Switzerland's first digital private bank with a license from FINMA, about building technology. I think it's something that's relevant for everybody. What I'm going to talk about is this question of build or buy. Right, so when a lot of companies or a lot of people go to build their future company, their future tech, they think, well, do I build it myself or do I buy it? And what I've found is that building it is typically favored by people who are creative, by creators. They're people who say, I don't like how anybody else has done it, I want to do it myself. Whereas when you buy, it's favored by managers. Right? People who aren't so creative, they just want to manage the process and make sure that that gets done. And each of these has their pros and cons. So for example, when you build, you get to choose what you build, exactly what you build. Right? So you get a blank sheet of paper and you get to decide, okay, what do I want to fill that blank sheet of paper with? But when you buy, you don't get that opportunity. The only thing that you can do is take what somebody else gives you and put that in place. In addition, when you build, you've got your own IP. You can differentiate from other people, right? If you buy something, then anybody can buy it, right? Anybody can buy it. If you can buy it, anybody else can buy it. But if you can build it, you can build something quite unique. You also control the speed, the direction, and the cost of the things that you build, right? If you want to put more money into it, increase the speed, you can do that. If you want to take your foot off the gas, you can do that as well. But on the buying side, you have predictable costs, right? So when you're building it, you're fully responsible for the costs that you bear. When you buy it, somebody else is responsible. But then you have predictable costs, but keep in mind, a margin is going to be baked into that build. And I think one of the key things about build versus buy is, do you want to take the responsibility or not? Right? If you build it yourself, it's your responsibility. If you fail at building it, you only have yourself to look at for that. Whereas if you have somebody where you buy it from them, if you buy a technology from them, then it's their responsibility, and it's only your job to make sure that they deliver on that. Another key aspect is the team. Right? I think everybody who's built technology knows that the team is hypercritical. Right? It's probably the most important thing, whether you build or buy, because just because you buy does not mean that the team can be bad. Right? This is hypercritical. For anybody who's building technology, I really encourage you to listen to this point, because even if you are buying, if the person you are buying from has a bad team, you will buy a bad product. It's as easy as that. And so whether you are building your own team or you are buying a technology from another company, make sure that the team that builds the technology is excellent. Okay, so these are some of the factors that you can think about when you're deciding to build and buy. And more or less, the way that I think about it is you build and buy, right? So I'll come into this in a second, but if you're building a complex ecosystem, the answer is not to build or to buy, it's to build and to buy. And I think the way I think about this is you buy the things that provide no differentiation, and you build what makes you different. All right, so I will get into this in a second with my company, Alpian, and how we decided to mix the two. But here's the kind of the logic, is that you should not build everything, but you should not build nothing. Right? You have to build some things, but you cannot build everything. If you try to do everything, you'll end up doing nothing. If you do nothing, you will be no different from anybody else. All right, so this is more or less the answer. So I'm going to go through an example, I just want to go through an exercise with everybody in the room. So Alpian, Switzerland's first digital private bank with a license from FINMA. I have it in my pocket right now, right? In my phone, but also in my wallet, right? So this card I use every day. It's the Alpian Metal Debit Card, and it came from scratch, right? So when we first, if you go back 3 years ago, nothing existed. We had to make this decision: do we build, do we buy, or do we build and buy? And ultimately, what you see here on the screen is the different things that we offer. And I'd like to, ask the audience, what are the things you think we build based off of what I've said, and what are the things that you think should be bought? All right, so let's start with payments. Do you buy or build a payment infrastructure? You buy. That's correct. Payments, there's nothing new about them. They're all the same, right? Payment, you just want to happen. I'm not trying to build some new payment infrastructure. I mean, for all the crypto people out there, that's fine, but that's not us, right? What we're trying to do is make payments as seamless and as cost-effective as possible. So we find somebody that does that, and we buy it. Okay, let's talk about account opening. All right, so do we buy that or do we build it? Build. Good. I think we're all on the same page. Account opening is super critical. And actually, this is something where you do a bit of both, right? So there are some elements of account opening that you build and some that you buy. So let me give you an example. When Alpian created its account opening, it's 10 minutes. Right, to open a fully licensed Swiss digital private banking account, 10 minutes and no paper. And if we tried to copy what everybody else is doing, it would not be 10 minutes, and there'd be lots of paper, and the experience would probably be not so good. So we decided to build it from scratch, right? A brand new account opening that's designed by Alpian that meets all of the regulatory requirements and is something that the client will appreciate. But there are elements that you don't want to build yourself. So let me give an example. One of the steps of the onboarding is you have to identify the client, right? And the way we do this is we take a selfie and we scan the ID of the client. There are tons of companies out there that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, or francs, to build exactly that technology. Exactly that. So why would I rebuild the onboarding, but that identification, this small piece of the onboarding, why would I build that myself when somebody else has already done it and they've raised hundreds of millions to do it? It just doesn't make any sense. And so I build the entire onboarding, but the small pieces that require a specific functionality, I get somebody else to do that, and I buy that. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these because then my speech will take forever. But obviously, I just showed you my debit card, right? This is, we custom designed this but we don't build it ourselves, right? We're a bank. We don't manufacture debit cards for a living. And so, these kinds of things you buy. Whereas your mobile application, right, the experience that you have as a client, right, and I'll show you this now. The mobile experience you have as a client, it's something that every time you interact with Alpion, you're going to experience this, right? And so this app, every time your client interacts with you, they will see this. And if this is not good, then why should they join your bank? And this is my real account with my real money in it. And so the mobile application is something that you have to differentiate on and you have to build. Okay. So this is ultimately what it comes out to, right? If you build, you get no bank, right? If I try and build something that took some other company 100 million to build, and I try and build it myself, I'm going to end up with nothing. If I buy, you end up with the thing in the middle, right? Which is some ugly app that anybody can copy. No client will want to use, and it's just not competitive. But if you build and you buy, then you end up with what's on the right, right? And this is not a sales pitch. It's just trying to help everybody understand that the path that I've taken for us to get to where we are, it's because I've learned along the way. I had to learn that I could not build everything, and I had to learn that I could not buy everything. Because when I started to build or I started to buy and I did too much of one or the other, you end up with something like this. And I've ultimately had to learn that I had to build and buy. And I'm trying to save everybody that trouble in the meantime. So anyways, my advice to approaching the build and buy, right? And I think this is probably, what is the biggest takeaways, is that when you're building, start with one exceptional CTO. Don't overcomplicate the process. Start with one really, really good person and keep it very simple. Build in small increments, right? When you're building technology, one of the great things about keeping your team motivated is when they see progress. If it takes too long to show progress, people start to wane, right? And as I said before, the team is hypercritical. You have to keep motivation up, so build in small increments. Focus on the quality rather than cost, right? So a lot of people will try and save cost. When you do that, you'll end up paying more in the long run, and you will lose on quality. And keep your team close, right? Keep them very close because, again, even with banks, most banks treat technology as a cost center. They kind of shun them away. It's a very bad thing to do. Technology is the future of many different industries, banking included. And if you push it away, if you treat it as a cost center, then you're not part of the future. When you're buying, right, interview the tech team as if it was your own. Right, so if you work with either a subcontractor or you work with a company, interview their tech team and make sure that that tech team is good. Because if it's not, it means their tech is not good. Differentiate between product companies and implementation companies. There are some companies that are very good at building products, but very bad at implementing their products. And there are some companies that are very good at implementing products, but are very bad at building products. And you need to make sure that when you engage with somebody you're buying technology from, you understand what they are. Hire experienced project managers. So this doesn't need to be explained, but I think one of the mistakes that I've made in the past is I underrated how important a project manager is. I thought, everybody else can do that work. We don't need to hire a dedicated project manager. It's wrong. You should hire a dedicated project manager if you have the resources to do so. Sign implementation contracts with a strong malice clause, right? So when you're doing the implementation, hold them accountable. Sign a malice clause. If they do not meet your expectations, your contract is going to be super important, and you better have a malice clause to say, you need to pay me back because it's going to impact you much more than it impacts them. They will continue to charge you unless you've got the proper contract in place. And then lastly is sign the yearly license only after the implementation. So pay for the implementation with a malice clause, and then sign the contract, the actual licensing contract, only after it's been implemented. This will force the company that you're buying from to do a good job with the implementation, and then it forces them to actually think about the future rather than just the day of billing. And so, these are my recommendations when you're approaching the buy versus build. So anyways, this is what has brought me to today with Alpian. I'm very proud to announce that in 1 week, we launched Switzerland's first digital private bank. We've actually launched already, but we launched the public on the Apple and Android stores. And these lessons that I'm sharing today, I don't think it's relative just for finance. This is relative for every person or every company that wants to build technology. And so I hope that everybody gets the chance to implement what I've shared today. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar, on that. I think actually the Go Live of Alpian is not just indeed a great milestone for yourself, but for all of Switzerland as well, being the first digital private bank. So congratulations on that. Our next speaker, actually we're going to stay on the topic of fintech, so as much of the other tech topics we're going to have just after the break. So our next speaker is Cecilia Peregrina, who will talk about bank and asset managers and digital assets. Cecilia is an experienced lawyer, focusing mainly on the financial sector, after having worked for more than 14 years for a reputable Swiss firm where she advised many companies in the industry. She joined PricewaterhouseCoopers in the fintech, blockchain, and digital assets team. With no further ado, Cecilia.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I have this difficult subject, always legal and not practical. You had this very nice presentation from Alpian and from our Swiss brands. I'll try to keep a bit practical, and it was very interesting to see Alpian's practical implementation, and actually I'll try to share some of our own clients' practical issues. So, legal plus reg. So of course I thought about digital assets. Why am I speaking about digital assets today? I'm a strong believer in digital assets, and I think digital assets is not anymore just big coins for geeks in the basement with the computer. It's also coming in the institutional players. So that's a small research that was done with PwC, and we see that more than 93% of global financial institutions are somehow interested in digital assets and or, I would say, blockchain, because of course those are two different topics. And 18% of those are actually really offering crypto-related services, and that's what I'm going to talk about. While 82%, which is the biggest part, is looking into the blockchain. And so you see that crypto is not blockchain and blockchain is not crypto. And of course, we think that maybe digital assets, it's the US and maybe some also offshore jurisdictions. Or now we listen about Lithuania, that is one of those countries really growing with digital assets, but actually we also have quite a lot of established players already in Switzerland, not only in the financial sectors, but here you can see a wall of other sectors like industry, marketing, and then, of course, financials. And given that that's my subject, those are, it's not exhaustive, that's why I put etc. Actually, maybe some years ago, I could put 3 of them, or maybe even 2 of them only, and there was the whole PowerPoint presentation, and now there were too many that I couldn't put them all in the PowerPoint, so that's why I put etc. There are some of them, I'm sure you know, that are really concentrated only on the crypto digital assets, that is mainly, I would say, SEBA and Signum and crypto finance, Taurus also, but then you can see some other actors that are actually active in the traditional banking system and that offer also some crypto-related services. You can see Bordier or Zaratini here. And so, the idea here is to present you how do you think about implementation, how do we implement a new digital asset line of services. So first thing, you're going to tell me how digital assets line of service is super different than what I already have. Why would I come into the digital asset services? Actually, it's not that different. On the right side, I try to put the traditional financial services compared to the digital asset services. So on the one side, you have banks. So it's true, I mean, banks, asset manager, that's basically all the FINMA-regulated activities. And now, if you move to the digital asset services, you have some other types of providers. It's not only bank, it's not only FINMA-regulated entities, but you have also some exchanges that might be regulated or not regulated, wallet providers, and also other fintech companies. Maybe Elpian could be part of those other fintech activities. So you go from dollars, Swiss francs, to Ether, Bitcoin, but at the end it's the same thing. You have the deposit versus the wallet, but again, you have a parallel. You make exchange, you make payments, and now in the future, you can make exchange payments with digital assets like crypto, Ether, Bitcoin, whatever. And you also have power of attorney, so you can also do asset management advisory with digital assets. So basically, all the services that you have before, you can translate them into this digital asset world. And like I'm a good Swiss without watch, I didn't listen about the branding of Switzerland. I still have 10 minutes. Okay. So products. You can launch product. So basically, that's the line of services that I imagine, at least the most popular one that we can see coming with PwC with the RDs. And so first thing, which kind of digital assets and which kind of services do you want to provide? Do you want to provide a product? For example, products could be an AMC or a fund or an ETF. So that's products that you will sell to the public and public will buy. And those products would be invested in digital assets, whatever. Then you can do trading. So that's the trading. You exchange. You buy Bitcoins, you sell Ether, you buy Swiss francs, and etc. So that's the trading part. Then custody, you create a wallet. I'm sure you all have heard about that word, wallet. Yeah? Okay, super great. So it's basically instead of your bank account, now you have what we call a wallet. But it's the exact same thing, except that you don't have Swiss francs on it, but you have Bitcoins or Ether or a super long list of things that you can put on your wallet. And the last thing is also portfolio management. You can advise people on how to get some exposure to the digital assets. So I would say that's the four main kind of digital assets line of services that you can imagine. Of course, you can do only one. You can start with 4 of them, or only with one. So if you want to start a new business, think, what kind of services I'm going to offer. Maybe you can start with a small one, that's the wallet one, and then you build up, you do with the asset management, and maybe you come at the end with the trading, that it's maybe the most complicated one to put in place. You also, of course, have to think which kind of clients. I try to put some professional clients, institutional clients, and retail clients. You don't serve those 3 kinds of clients the same way. Of course, the regulation is different whether you're talking to professional clients and retail clients. So again, maybe you want to start only with institutionals or professional clients, and then you grow up with retail, or you want to start immediately with retail, but that's something that you have to think about before, maybe even before coming to us or discussing with us. And here, it's funny, because actually, that's the whole presentation that you already got from Elpian. Do you buy or build? And basically, I completely agree with what Elpian explained. And here, what we see is that you will build your own solution if you, for example, already know that you have a high level of demand from clients. Because, of course, building your own platform, your own systems, might be a bit more expensive, and it will definitely take more time than if you outsource. But if you have a huge client base, it is better to build than rather to outsource. Internal knowledge, I think Elpian insisted on the fact that you need to hire experienced people, knowledgeable people. For the build-on solution, that's obvious. Here I put a no. It was maybe a bit challenging. I really thought about, shall I put no or yes about the outsourcing? I think if you know a bit less, you can outsource rather than build your own solution, but that's why I put the warning. Of course, even if you outsource, you need to understand what your outsource company is going to do. You need to be able to understand, because you need to check whether they are the right people, they are good people, and they will provide you a good product. So no, but with a warning if you don't know. If you understand, you need, of course, to understand the markets and your customer demands. If you want to start with the digital asset service line, you need to understand the clients, who are your future clients, what do they want, and maybe it's not the same if you are an asset manager, then a bank, or maybe a fintech company or a foreign company that wants to incorporate in Switzerland. Do you already have an existing infrastructure? Yes, then you can build. If you don't, maybe you will want to outsource. And I think one of the, at least on our side, some of the clients that comes to us, one of the critical question is timing. How much time it's going to take me to build my own solution, while versus outsourcing, of course, is faster. So maybe I would start maybe with that question. I see in practice, this is one of the crucial questions. And how important digital assets is within your business. If it's just a new future line of business that you are running, maybe start with the outsourcing and you see it works, and then you realize that you want to build in. And legal, I'm sorry, I have to do some legal. Super fast. Basically, yes, in Switzerland, we do have what we call the DLT framework, so it's a law that is related to the digital asset world, but we don't have a specific legislation in Europe. If you know the European system, you have some laws that apply only to digital assets. In Switzerland, this is not the way we decided to do it. We decided actually to take a law and amend our current law and just twist it a bit to adapt it to the digital assets. So it's all laws that, you know, the Banking Act that applies to traditional banks, and you just have some articles here and there that apply to digital assets. But basically, we don't have a specific law. And the second thing is FINMA. I will talk to you about FINMA afterwards, but I have to say that FINMA is a great partner. We can discuss with them. It's not always the case in other jurisdictions. I mean, of course, there are some things that sometimes we don't like about FINMA. Mainly it's timing, but for the rest, we have a great regulator and that we can count on. And we have also the Swiss Banker Association that is doing a great job to try to create some guidelines how to work with digital assets when you are already a bank. So again, timing, perfect. So here it's just a small chart to show you that you have, again, differences with whether you choose a known solution or if you outsource. You see that the red ones are bigger when you have an own solution, while with the outsourcing, you have more pink and less red, meaning that it's maybe easier to implement an outsourcing solution. It's maybe definitely faster. But still, it's not that you can just plug and play and you get out. You still have to think about, you still have to amend things in your own organization if you already are a company. But, okay, so I'm happy to discuss this in a more detail, but otherwise, if I go until all of the points, I'm going to take all the time. So basically, I try to summarize it that way. So, license. That's the first thing, FINMA. Do you actually need a license from FINMA? If you are a current traditional player and you already have a FINMA license, maybe you can offer some kind of digital assets without having to go into a whole new application update of your current license with FINMA. So we do see in our practice some banks that, for example, are accepting some clients that comes from the digital asset world. So it's people who made money with Bitcoins, Ether, and they receive that money in Bitcoin, Ether, and what we call cash out. Cash out means that you exchange all of your Bitcoins in Swiss francs, and then of course you have those Swiss francs on a wallet and you want to put them again in the traditional banking system. It's not that easy to actually do that step and find a bank that actually will agree to open a bank account with your money that comes from the blockchain and the bitcoins and etc. So there are some banks that do that, that are starting to do that, and it's interesting to help them to understand how it works. Can I accept this money? Where the money comes from? Is there any problem with AML, AML anti-money laundering laws, and etc. So that's something you can do if you are already a licensed bank, or you can maybe accept those kind of clients and start with that. And then, of course, if you want to build a new line of services, you need to have the approval of FINMA. You need to sort of upgrade the kind of services that you provide to your clients. So you will have to explain to FINMA, actually, what is your new line of services? How do you implement it? Did you build something? Did you outsource everything? If you outsource, how do you discuss with your outsourced partner? How do you coordinate with your outsourced partners? And of course, you have to choose your outsourced partner. So I would say that if you build a new line of services, definitely you will have to go to FINMA. And if you come from, you didn't have any license from FINMA, then depending again on the services that you are providing, you might need a license. So it's an upgrade of the existing one. I put the non-action letter. This is something very nice that FINMA does, and not all regulators does it. You can ask FINMA, I want to do this. I think that it's not regulated. Do you confirm that it's an activity that is not regulated? And FINMA will answer yes or no. And if they answer yes, then maybe you can again twist it a bit to change some things, because FINMA say it is regulated because you are doing that and that. So you change it, and up, you're a non-regulated activities. And so you can offer some services with little regulation. So that's the non-action letter. And on the impact, if you are already a company, you will definitely need to change some documentation. You will need to change your organization, maybe because you want to hire some people that knows about digital assets. On the IT side, on the asset management side, and etc. IT, again, if you are working with some outsourced partners or building, you will need to upgrade your IT system. Capital requirements, that's a huge discussion. If you are a bank or a securities firm, if you want to do trading with digital assets, there are some solutions where you can do everything what we call off-balance sheet, so it doesn't have an impact on your capital requirements. But again, that's some discussion that you need to have with us and then with FINMA. And others, we can imagine any other things. Maybe now that, if I still have some 2 minutes. No? 1 minute for FINMA. I have to say that FINMA is, they know what they talk about. When we talk about digital assets, you don't have to explain them what's blockchain, what's Bitcoin. They understand it, and they have seen already many, many cases. And so they are starting to be maybe a bit more difficult than before, more stricter than before, because now they understand what they are doing. Maybe at the beginning they were learning with the people who started. Now it's not the case. FINMA knows, but then you can have good exchanges. And so I really, I mean, you should start the digital assets. I'm really, I trust in that, and I think that's the future. Traditional banking also, but digital assets, it's the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. We can feel your passion coming through as well. And actually, the regulatory environment is very important for encouraging innovation as well. Before our keynote speaker, it wouldn't be a Globaltech startup if we wouldn't actually have startup pitches. And so we are running about 10 minutes, because we started about 10, 15 minutes later, which we'll catch up during the coffee break. But I would like to invite Alex first from WeCon Group. You have exactly 5 minutes for your company pitch, and then followed by our second startup. So you'll have 4 startups today. Over to you, Alex. Very much.
And thank you, Cecilia, for this great introduction. You spoke of blockchain in finance. If I say blockchain, a lot of people think cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. And we are here a living example that there is much more to blockchain, obviously. It's like a new wave of internet. And I don't know how I turn the slides here. Is it this one? Sorry, I can't see. Yes, okay. And so I'm the Chief Growth Officer of WeCan. We are a company that uses blockchain to enable and solve problems for companies in what you would say a traditional way. It's not the Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. We tackle real-life problems, but we solve them with blockchain the way you could not solve them with other technologies. So we secure communications, we make them private, and we make them compliant. Actually, PwC is an excellent example because they do also compliance checks, and we can work, for instance, with that kind of, we can provide that kind of service across the board. Today, we have about 12 banks and 80+ external asset managers that use our platform called We Can Comply to streamline their compliance. So they can be actually audited, and they can be audited by the banks first, and also by regulators if needed, by auditing companies. So this, through the blockchain, we ensure that this is immutable, and the data that the EAMs push to the banks are completely, basically traceable and all electronic. They don't need to photocopy a pile that they send to multiple banks. Actually, we created an association with banks. We have a representative of a board member in this room of the Blockchain Association for Finance. And as you can see, very established bank like Lombard Odier 1796, Pictet 1805 that are using blockchain technology, not for crypto, but for solving their compliance issues with external asset managers. And to bring some Heidi to this session, like Nikola said, there is another piece that we're bringing to the compliance that connects to it and that actually augments the solution in a very nice way, which is the connection. So we are launching soon, and this is the first time I think maybe we're really speaking publicly about it. Tomorrow in Geneva we'll speak. We will have the world premiere in terms of showing how it looks. Banking-grade private messaging that you can also use to communicate with your friends and family. But why is that? It's another real-life problem, is that today in the United States, the fines exceeded 2 billion for banks because people used messaging that was unsecured, not traceable, like WhatsApp. We bring that on blockchain, we make it traceable, and banks are protected. And you can use also this for your private conversations, and there is the data is yours. It doesn't go to servers of governments and so on. So it's a complete closing the loop with the compliance also, and it makes a complete solution. There is actually more that will come to it, because thanks to blockchain we can do more, and we have quite an ambitious vision. And I invite you to come and talk to us. We're at the end of this nice room over there. Nathan in the room will be there. If you want to come and see us, we're not from the beautiful city of Lausanne, but next door in Geneva, and we're very happy to welcome you. We will run soon also some pilots for Connect, this blockchain messaging, and very happy to talk about those pilots with you if you're interested. Thank you.
Perfect 5 minutes. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite also Martina from Destinus to join us on stage. And thanks again for staying under the 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let's see. So our company, Destinus, is all about speed. If you would go from Geneva today and travel all the way to Sydney, that would probably take something like 20 hours with one or multiple stops along the way. And you would also release a lot of carbon emissions during those flights. Actually, flights contribute to 2.5% of global carbon emissions. So this is something that we want to fight. And how we're doing this is by building airplanes. So we're building a new type of airplane that will go a lot faster, above the speed of sound, actually 5 times above the speed of sound. And it will be powered by hydrogen as fuel. And this is really to combat the ultra long-range routes that you see today. So you could go from Geneva to Sydney in 4 hours or so. So we tried already in the industry with the Concorde to develop these supersonic airplanes above the speed of sound, and maybe some of you have traveled on this vehicle as well. The problem with it was, it had multiple problems. One of the problems was the noise levels. They were quite loud, and especially if you went over populated areas, which was difficult to get approvals for. So we are developing very, very long-range airplanes so that you can travel for much longer routes, and you can avoid the populated areas by flying from, say, Europe to Sydney above the North Pole, so above Russia, and going that route instead. Another problem was that they were pretty expensive to build, so we're looking into how to make our airplanes a lot cheaper by the materials we choose and how we go about the manufacturing process. And they were slow in comparison to what you could achieve. So if you want to fly from Geneva to Sydney with a supersonic jet, that would still take you something like 10 hours or so. So we're cutting that down to 3 to 4 hours instead. And this is just an image of what the airplane could potentially look like in the future. And it's, as you see, it has a special shape. It's called a delta wing. It's a wave rider, so it actually waves on top of the sonic boom shock wave that is created when you fly above the speed of sound. And we're doing this by developing engines in-house that are powered by hydrogen. And when you use renewable hydrogen from solar panels or from wind turbines, when you split water into H2O, you don't have any carbon emissions in the process. And then when you burn it, it essentially turns into water. And these engines, we're currently developing them in-house. We're doing 2 types of engines, one that will be air breathing, and then one that will have a closed system with LOX and LH2. And when you look at hydrogen developments around the world, this is a mega trend right now. It's growing everywhere. And these are just some of the big locations where hydrogen is planned to be produced or is currently under production. And these are all sites that we're interested in going to. So you see, Australia has a lot of developments there as well. And just a little bit about Destinus. So we were founded last year, so a fairly new company, but we already have 80 people on the team. We are headquartered here in Switzerland, but we also have offices in France, Germany, and Spain. And so far, we built 2 subsonic prototypes that are flying. We have our next flight of our 9-meter prototype next week. So that's going to be a big milestone for us. And then we have the following prototype that will fly in 2023, so end of next year. It's currently going into manufacturing phase, so we're moving quite fast. And this is the test facility that we've set up in Switzerland. So if you want to come to Payerne and visit, you're welcome to. So this is currently there, and we're starting the firing of this this week. And it's going to start with some small components that belong to the hydrogen engines. And this is some images of the big 9-meter prototype. We already flew it back in April, and we're flying it again next week, as I mentioned, with some improvements, more servos, better servos on board, more sensors, and it will help the team to develop the aerodynamic tools necessary for the bigger and future prototypes. It also helps us test out different propulsion systems. So we're going from, right now we're flying this with kerosene, but we're moving over to hydrogen, and to develop the GNC system, so the avionics, because we're flying these right now with a remote pilot, but we're planning on flying them without any pilot at all, at least for testing. It's a lot easier and faster to go that way before we introduce pilots and passengers. And in terms of the future prototypes, the hydrogen engine, as I mentioned, we're starting to test the components already this year, and the test rig is set up in Switzerland. And then we're going to be moving over to putting together the entire engine, and those tests will be conducted in Switzerland by summer next year. This is when we're looking to have the full first prototype of the engine constructed, and that's a small-scale one, and then we're growing from there. So the engine is our core technology, but also the airplane itself. So we're both doing the ground testing, where we're firing engines, so it's kind of like